So recently, I've been thinking a lot about who the greatest mixed martial artist of all time is. It's a very fun topic. I enjoy talking about it a lot. I don't ever think it'll be answered, but I know it's a lot of fun for a lot of people to discuss in passionate communities such as Reddit's MMA community because a lot of people likely think it's fun, similar to how I think it's fun. So, one metric I wanted to account for was total cage time and cage time per fight. I think it's a good indicator and a data point to use to enrich those discussions because, as we all know, not all victories are created equal. Strength of schedule matters, which is something I've examined. But also, the kinds of victories, just how dominant they were in their victories or how much they were dominated in their losses. These facts speak to just how good a fighter was. So I decided to start with Fedor since he's a very common candidate for greatest mixed martial artist of all time. And what I've done is I've gathered all of his fights in reverse chronological order across the top. I marked whether or not they were a win or loss and what the result was. So for Quentin Jackson, you can see it's a TKO, technical knockout. For Fabio Maldonado, it was a win, majority decision, so on and so forth. I then gathered the time and calculated the amount of seconds that's equivalent to. I found that Fedor has spent 15,016 seconds in the cage during his career, which is equal to 333.688 seconds per fight. That's also equivalent to 250.266 minutes total, which is just over 5.5 minutes per fight. Lastly, that's 4.171 hours in his career that he spent in the cage and 0.092 hours per fight. This may not seem like a whole lot. I know they said Nate Diaz has surpassed more than 5 hours in the cage, and he hasn't fought as much as Fedor. But if you look at the data, it may not be too surprising because Fedor tended to most of his fights were finishes. All of his losses and 30 of his 39 wins were all finishes, and they tended to be pretty quick, so it's not all that surprising Fedor may not have spent the most amount of time in the cage. To further expand upon that, I broke down the different kinds of results of Fedor's fights to see how long he spent in total and per fight for each of those. I didn't include the one no contest he has on his record, but as you can see, he's got 15 knockouts, 15 submissions, 9 decision victories, as well as 5 knockout losses and 1 submission loss. So I broke out the total amount of seconds for each, the total minutes for each, and the total hours for each, and then divided it by the total amount of applicable fights, which is 40, 15 for the knockouts here, 5 for the knockouts and losses, and found just how much time he spent in the cage for each one of those fights. So for knockouts, wins, it was 203.6 seconds per win, 3.39 minutes, and 0.0565 seconds. I hope you find this all interesting. I hope it helps add a little context around Fedor's candidacy for greatest mixed martial artist of all time. Again, not meant to settle that debate, just to hopefully enrich it a bit. I'll include this data in the description of the video, as well as a link to another spreadsheet I did that parcels out Fedor's opponents by their win-loss record, both what the record was when they faced Fedor and their records afterwards. And I intend to keep doing this for more fighters to continue to add to the GOAT discussions. But if you find this interesting, please feel free to make any suggestions. I'll consider them as part of a project. And please don't forget to like and subscribe.